2 Maccabees, chapter 8, verse 21 through chapter 10, verse 23. Thus, when he had made them bold with these words, and ready to die for the laws in the country, he divided his army into 4 parts, and enjoined with himself his own brethren, leaders of each band, to wit, Simon, and Joseph, and Jonathan, giving each one 1,500 men. Also he appointed Eleazar to read the holy book. And when he had given them this watchword, the help of God, himself leading the first band, he joined battle with Nicanor. And by the help of the Almighty, they slew above 9,000 of their enemies, and wounded and maimed the most part of Nicanor's host, and so put all to flight, and took their money that came to buy them, and pursued them far. But lacking time, they returned, for it was the day before the Sabbath, and therefore they would no longer pursue them. So, when they had gathered their armor together, and spoiled their enemies, they occupied themselves about the Sabbath, yielding exceeding praise and thanks to the Lord, who had preserved them unto that day, which was the beginning of mercy distilling upon them. And after the Sabbath, when they had given part of the spoils to the maimed, and the widows, and orphans, the residue they divided among themselves, and their servants. When this was done, and they had made a common supplication, they besought the merciful Lord to be reconciled with his servants forever. Moreover, of those that were with Timotheus and Maccabees, who fought against them, they slew above 20,000, and very easily got high in strongholds, and divided among themselves many spoils more, and made the maimed, orphans, widows, yea, and the aged also, equal in spoils with themselves. And when they had gathered their armor together, they laid them up all carefully in convenient places, and the remnant of the spoils they brought to Jerusalem. They slew also Philarches, that wicked person, who was with Timotheus, and had annoyed the Jews many ways. Furthermore, at such time as they kept the feast for the victory in their country, they burned Callisthenes, and some others, that had set fire upon the holy gates, who had fled into a little house, and they received a reward meet for their wickedness. As for that most ungracious Nicanor, who had brought 1,000 merchants to buy the Jews, he was through the help of the Lord brought down by them, of whom he made least account, and putting off his glorious apparel, and discharging his company, he came like a fugitive servant through the midland unto Antioch, having a very great dishonor, for that his host was destroyed. Thus he, that took upon him to make good to the Romans their tribute by means of the captives in Jerusalem, told abroad that the Jews had God to fight for them, and therefore they could not be hurt, because they followed the laws that he gave them. About that time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia, for he had entered the city called Persepolis, and went about to rob the temple, and to hold the city, whereupon the multitude running to defend themselves with their weapons put them to flight. And so it happened that Antiochus, being put to flight of the inhabitants, returned with shame. Now when he came to Ecbatani, news was brought to him what had happened unto Nicanor and Timotheus. Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews the disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee. Therefore commanded he his chariotmen to drive without ceasing, and to dispatch the journey, the judgment of God now following him. For he had spoken proudly in this sort, that he would come to Jerusalem, and make it a common burying place of the Jews. But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invisible plague, for as soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels that was remediless came upon him, and sore torments of the inner parts, and that most justly, for he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but was still filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, and commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pained. And thus he that a little afore thought he might command the ways of the sea, so proud was he beyond the condition of men, and weighed the high mountains in a balance, and now cast on the ground, and carried in a horse litter, showing forth unto all the manifest power of God. So that the wounds rose up out of the body of this wicked man, and whilst he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army. And the man, that thought a little afore he could reach to the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry his intolerable stink. He therefore, being plagued, he began to leave off his great pride, and to come to the knowledge of himself by the scourge of God, his pain increasing every moment. And when he himself could not abide his own smell, he said these words, It is meet to be subject unto God, and that a man that is mortal should not proudly think of himself as if he were God. This wicked person vowed also unto the Lord, who now no more would have mercy upon him, saying thus, that the holy city, to which he was going in haste, to lay it even with the ground, and to make it a common burying place, he would set at liberty, and as touching the Jews, whom he had judged not worthy so much as to be buried, but to be cast out with their children, to be devoured of the fowls and the wild beasts, he would make them all equals to the citizens of Athens. In the holy temple, which before he had spoiled, he would garnish with goodly gifts, and restore all the holy vessels with many more, and out of his own revenue defray the charges belonging to the sacrifices. Yea, and that also he would become a Jew himself, and go through all the world that was inhabited, and declare the power of God. But for all this his pains would not cease, for the just judgment of God came upon him. Therefore, despairing of his health, he wrote unto the Jews the letter underwritten, containing the form of a supplication, after this manner. Antiochus, king and governor, to the good Jews his citizens, wisheth much joy, health, and prosperity. If ye and your children fare well, and your affairs be to your contentment, I give very great thanks to God, having my hope in heaven. As for me, I was weak, or else I would have remembered kindly your honor and goodwill. Returning out of Persia, and being taken with a grievous disease, I thought it necessary to care for the common safety of all, not distrusting mine health, but having great hope to escape this sickness. But considering that even my father, at what time he led an army into the high countries, appointed a successor, to the end that, if anything fell out of contrary to expectation, or if any tidings were brought that were grievous, they of that land, knowing to whom the state was left, might not be troubled. Again, considering how the princes that are borderers and neighbors unto my kingdom wait for opportunities, and expect what shall be the event, I have appointed my son Antiochus king, whom I often committed and commended unto many of you, when I went up into the high provinces, to whom I have written as followeth. Therefore I pray and request you to remember the benefits that I have done unto you generally, and in especial, that every man will still be faithful to me and my son. For I am persuaded that he, understanding my mind, will favorably and graciously yield to your desires. Thus the murderer and blasphemer, having suffered most grievously, as he entreated other men, so died he a miserable death in a strange country in the mountains. And Philip, that was brought up with him, carried away his body, who also, fearing the son of Antiochus, went into Egypt to Ptolemais Philometor. Now Maccabees and his company, the Lord guiding them, recovered the temple and the city, but the altars which the heathen had built in the open street, and also the chapels, they pulled down. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, and striking stones, they took fire out of them, and offered a sacrifice after 2 years, and set forth incense, and lights, and showbread. When that was done, they fell flat down, and besought the Lord, that they might come no more into such troubles, but if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 25th day of the same month, which is Casliu. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles, remembering that not long afore they had beheld the feast of the tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. Therefore they bare branches, and fair boughs, and palms also, and sang psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place. They ordained also, by a common statute and decree, that every year those days should be kept of the whole nation of the Jews. And this was the end of Antiochus, called Epiphanes. Now will be declared the acts of Antiochus Eupator, who was the son of the wicked man, gathering briefly the calamities of the wars. So when he was come over to the crown, he set one Lysias over the affairs of his realm, and appointed him chief governor of Cilicia and Phoenice. For Ptolemais, that was called Macron, choosing rather to do justice unto the Jews for the wrong that had been done unto them, endeavored to continue peace with them. Whereupon, being accused of the king's friends before Eupator, and called traitor at every word, because he had left Cyprus, that Philometor had committed unto him, and departed to Antiochus Epiphanes, and, seeing that he was in no honorable place, he was so discouraged that he poisoned himself and died. But when Gorgias was governor of the holds, he hired soldiers and nourished war continually with the Jews. And therewithal the Idumeans, having gotten into their hands the most commodious holds, kept the Jews occupied, and receiving those that were banished from Jerusalem, they went about to nourish war. Then they that were with Maccabees made supplication, and besought God that he would be their helper. And so they ran with violence upon the strongholds of the Idumeans, and assaulting them strongly, they won the holds, and kept off all that fought upon the wall, and slew all that fell into their hands, and killed no fewer than 20,000. And because certain, who were no less than 9,000, were fled together into 2 very strong castles, having all manner of things convenient to sustain the siege, Maccabeus left Simon and Joseph, and Zacchaeus also, and them that were with him, who were enough to besiege them, and departed himself unto those places which more needed his help. Now they that were with Simon, being led with covetousness, were persuaded for money through certain of those that were in the castle, and took 70,000 drachms, and let some of them escape. But when it was told Maccabeus what was done, he called the governors of the people together, and accused those men that they had sold their brethren for money, and set their enemies free to fight against them. So he slew those that were found traitors, and immediately took the 2 castles. And having good success with his weapons, in all things he took in hand, he slew in the 2 holds more than 20,000. 2 Esdras, chapter 5. Nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the day shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in a great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. But iniquity shall be increased above that which thou now seest, or that thou hast heard long ago. And the land that thou seest now to have root shalt thou see wasted suddenly. But if the Most High grant thee to live, thou shalt see after the 3rd trumpet that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night, and the moon thrice in the day. And blood shall drop out of wood, and the stone shall give his voice, and the people shall be troubled. And even he shall rule, whom they look not for that dwell upon the earth, and the fowl shall take their flight away together. And the Sodomitish sea shall cast out fish, and make a noise in the night, which many have not known, but they shall all hear the voice thereof. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. And salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into a secret chamber, and shall be sought of many, and yet not be found. Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth. One land also shall ask another, and say, Is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee? And it shall say, No. At the same time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their way shall not prosper. To show thee such tokens I have leave, and if thou wilt pray again, and weep as now, and fast 7 days, thou shalt hear yet greater things. Then I awaked, and an extreme fearfulness went through all my body, and my mind was troubled, so that it fainted. So the angel that was come to talk with me held me, comforted me, and set me up upon my feet. And in the 2nd night it came to pass, that Salathiel, the captain of the people, came unto me, saying, Where hast thou been, and why is thy countenance so heavy? Knowest thou not that Israel is committed unto thee in the land of their captivity? Up then, and eat bread, and forsake us not, as the shepherd that leaveth his flock in the hands of cruel wolves. Then said I unto him, Go thy ways from me, and come not nigh me. And he heard what I said, and went from me. And so I fasted 7 days, mourning and weeping, like as Uriel the angel commanded me. After 7 days so it was, that the thoughts of my heart were very grievous unto me again. And my soul recovered the spirit of understanding, and I began to talk with the Most High again, and said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen thee one only vine. And of all lands of the whole world thou hast chosen thee one pit, and of all the flowers thereof one lily. And of all the depths of the sea thou hast filled thee one river, and of all builded cities thou hast hallowed Sion unto thyself. And of all the fowls that are created thou hast named thee one dove, and of all the cattle that are made thou hast provided thee one sheep. And among all the multitudes of people thou hast gotten thee one people, and unto this people, whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved of all. And now, O Lord, why hast thou given this one people over unto many? And upon the one root hast thou prepared others, and why hast thou scattered thy only one people among many? And they which did gainsay thy promises, and believed not thy covenants, have trodden them down. If thou didst so much hate thy people, yet shouldest thou punish them with thine own hands. Now, when I had spoken these words, the angel that came to me the night before was sent unto me, and said unto me, Hear me, and I will instruct thee. Hearken to the thing that I say, and I shall tell thee more. And I said, Speak on, my Lord. Then said he unto me, Thou art sore troubled in mind for Israel's sake. Lovest thou that people better than he that made them? And I said, No, Lord, but of very grief have I spoken, for my reins pain me every hour, while I labor to comprehend the way of the Most High, and seek out part of his judgment. And he said unto me, Thou canst not. And I said, Wherefore, Lord? Whereunto was I born then? Or why was not my mother's womb then my grave, that I might not have seen the travail of Jacob, and the wearisome toil of the stock of Israel? And he said unto me, Number me the things that are not yet come. Gather me together the drops that are scattered abroad, and make me the flowers green again that were withered. Open me the places that are closed, and bring me forth the winds that are in them are shut up. Show me the image of a voice, and then I will declare to thee the thing that thou laborest to know. And I said, O Lord that bearest rule, who may know these things, but he that hath not his dwelling with men? As for me, I am unwise. How may I then speak of these things where thou askest me? Then said he unto me, Like as thou canst do none of these things that I have spoken of, even so canst thou not find out my judgment, or in the end the love that I promised unto my people. And I said, Behold, O Lord, yet art thou nigh unto them that be preserved till the end. And what shall they do that have been before me, or we that be now, or they that shall come after us? And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring. Like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first. So I answered and said, Couldst thou not make those that have been made, and be now, and that are for to come, at once, that thou mightest show thy judgment the sooner? Then answered he me, and said, The creature may not haste above the Maker, neither may the world hold them at once that shall be created therein. And I said, As thou hast said unto thy servant, that thou, which givest life to all, hast given life at once to the creature that thou hast created, and the creature bare it, even so it might now also bear them that now be present at once. And he said unto me, Ask the womb of a woman, and say unto her, If thou bringest forth children, why dost thou it not together, but one after another? Pray her therefore to bring forth 10 children at once. And I said, She cannot, but must do it by distance of time. Then said he unto me, Even so have I given the womb of the earth to those that be sown in it in their times. For like as a young child may not bring forth the things that belong to the aged, even so have I disposed the world which I created. And I asked and said, Seeing thou hast now given me the way, I will proceed to speak before thee, for our mother, of whom thou hast told me that she is young, draweth now nigh unto age. He answered me and said, Ask a woman that beareth children, and she shall tell thee. Say unto her, Wherefore are not they whom thou hast now brought forth like those that were before, but less of stature? And she shall answer thee, They that be born in the strength of youth are of one fashion, and they that are born in the time of age, when the womb faileth, are otherwise. Consider thou therefore also, how that ye are less of stature than those that were before you. And so are they that come after you less than ye, as the creatures which now begin to be old, and have passed over the strength of youth. Then said I, Lord, I beseech thee, if I have found favor in thy sight, show thy servant by whom thou visitest thy creature. The Acts of the Apostles, chapter 24. And after 5 days, Ananias, as the high priest, descended with the elders, and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. And when he was called forth, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, Seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy providence, we accept it always, and in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness. Notwithstanding that I be not further tedious unto thee, I pray thee that thou wouldest hear us of thy clemency a few words. For we have found this man a pestilent fellow, and a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also hath gone about to profane the temple, whom we took, and would have judged according to our law. But the chief captain Lysias came upon us, and with a great violence took him away out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come unto thee, by examining of whom thyself mayest take knowledge of all these things, whereof we accuse him. And the Jews also assented, saying that these things were so. Then Paul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, Forasmuch as I know that thou hast been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself, because that thou mayest understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem for to worship. And they neither found me in the temple disputing with any man, neither raising up the people, neither in the synagogues, nor in the city. Neither can they prove the things whereof they now accuse me. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so I worship the God of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets, and have hope toward God, which they themselves also allow, that there shall be a resurrection of the dead, both of the just and unjust. And herein do I exercise myself, to have always a conscience void of offense toward God and toward men. Now after many years I came to bring alms to my nation, and offerings. Whereupon certain Jews from Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitude nor with tumult, who ought to have been here before thee, and object, if they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me, while I stood before the council, except it be for this one voice, that I cried standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead, I am called into question by you this day. And when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them, and said, When Lysias the chief captain shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. And he commanded a centurion to keep Paul, and to let him have liberty, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister or come unto him. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was the Jewess, he sent for Paul, and heard him concerning the faith in Christ. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled, and answered, Go thy way for this time. When I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. He hoped also that money should have been given him of Paul, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him the oftener, and communed with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room, and Felix, willing to show the Jews a pleasure, left Paul bound.